Ask an Expert, whatever you want to call it. We're here on a Tuesday evening for a member video review. And I was telling John before this that we have some wonderful submissions. I am excited to get into these and to see some horses and riders who we've seen some of these before. I'm sure some are going to be new to us. And it's just these member video reviews are always a highlight of the month whenever we do these. Thank you, John, for joining us this time.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy it. It is the highlight of my month.
Oh, wow. That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
And we're going to take this hour to learn from John. And I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from you this evening, John. And then in return, everybody listening, we're all going to send John good vibes on his upcoming advance this weekend. And that is what we can offer you is good luck. And the whole Ride IQ community will be supporting you. So
I'll take it. Thank you.
there you go. Awesome. Well, without further ado, if you're ready, John, we can hop right into this.
Let's go. Let's roll.
Amazing. And one thing I should mention before I do show this first video is if you're new to member video reviews, as always, we welcome you to ask questions related to videos, even if they're not of you. And this is an opportunity for all of us to learn from each other. So don't hesitate to put any questions that you have in chat. And if you're listening to this after the fact, don't hesitate to send us your video for the next video review. We're always happy to get some new submissions. So totally encourage that. And on that note, we're going to see a submission from a frequent attendee to these video reviews, Anna. Let me share my screen. And Anna has a very kind of broad question for you, John. She is looking for guidance on the best next step to ensure her talented horse reaches his full potential.
All right.
Did we lose you, John? John, are you still there? Oh.
The fabulous Fjord.
Yeah.
He's amazing. So, I mean, the first thing I would say here is obviously he is a complete natural athlete. So you probably don't have to do a lot, but you do need to probably step up the gallop sets a little bit and perhaps work on his dietary program would be my advice. You want to just make sure you have the balance between his forage intake and his protein intake correct, because he's well sprung, and we got to make sure that he's getting all the fitness and gallop work in that he can get.
Wonderful.
I
think
love him.
he's
And I do
perfect just
really
the way he
like the
is.
clip job here with the heart on his butt is pretty magical as well, to be honest. Look at him. He is such a good boy.
He really is.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. All joking aside, if we could all have a horse like that just went where we asked him to go, when we asked him to go there, halted when we wanted him to, and just didn't try to buck us off or spin or be general idiots, maybe we could get like some sort of a Fjord sport horse cross.
I'm here for it.
All right.
I support you, John, in this endeavor.
Thank you for sending that in, Anna. That was awesome. I always love seeing them.
Yeah, she submitted that like over a month ago and was
Amazing.
Ready to go as soon as we announced this. So, Anna, we're always happy to see Olaf. Thank you for that.
He's such a good boy.
This next one is going to keep up the good vibes, and we've got Kelly. One second, let me show you this video. Okay, you can see Kelly, right, John?
Yep, got her.
Okay. Kelly is riding Topper, a 7-year-old Connemara thoroughbred cross gelding she bought this summer. She had him for 5 to 6 weeks before taking him to a schooling show to see how he would the environment, and he was a perfect gentleman. Kelly hopes to compete in USEF shows and work toward her bronze medal over the next few years, while also starting eventing at starter beginner novice next year if she gets brave enough. She's looking for general advice on how to continue building their partnership, what to focus on between lessons, and how to keep improving at home.
All right. So I will say the first thing that I noticed, which I have to say a lot of the Ride IQ riders are really good about this. Is you're doing an awesome job maintaining a contact without pulling his head down and sort of worrying about he must be round. And I think that's really good because that then is going to develop true connection in a horse that wants to take you forward. And even there, where he sort of had a little falter and thought about cantering, you didn't panic and didn't pull, you just kept smiling and posting around. As far as position things, I think one thing would be that he looks like he might be just a little behind the leg. And I say that only because your heel isn't as deep as you'd like it to be. And that usually happens when you feel like you're having to kind of urge them forward. If it's not that you have to urge them forward, then you just actually need to get a little bit more disciplined in pushing your heel down and letting your legs stretch long. So I would encourage you at home to be working more without stirrups, and don't panic. That doesn't mean you have to like do posting trot and canter around without stirrups, but you could certainly, to get rolling with it, do it like in the walk, maybe a little bit in the trot, and just intermix it in with the work that you do. You have excellent hands though. They stay nice and quiet and low. Um, but I'd say like in a dressage saddle, you'd love that leg to be able to get a little bit longer. And I don't want you to just make your stirrups longer because you'll be reaching for them. We want to get your hips to stretch out, your hip flexors to stretch, and your legs to be naturally longer. And that's going to come more when you work without your stirrups. And you can see there in the walk where you're doing a great job motivating that walk with your seat. Your leg actually is in a much better place than it was in your trot work. In the trot work, it did just start to inch up a little bit. And then the other thing I'd say as far as position goes is because those stirrups get a little bit or are a little bit short, you just teeter on wanting to be in a little bit of a chair seat position with your leg a little out in front of you when you're trotting and cantering around. So I think all of that can be easily corrected by working a little more without your stirrups. And again, here you can see he gets a little bit tough in those circles there. So that's just going to be about that connection and wanting to keep that straight line from your elbow to your hand to your horse's mouth. But again, like that happened, and then he actually finished that circle really nicely. So I think you do a good job of not overreacting to that, and then had a nice transition to canter there. Really nice. I would say in your daily work and in your warm up, do a lot more transitions so that he gets better and better to that leg. So, like for a horse like this in the warm up for this test, I would probably do, I don't know, 1,643 trot to canter transitions with him so that he's listening for your leg, because you could just see him occasionally turning his ears back at you. And I don't think it's that he's being overly grumpy. I think it's that he's a little bit confused and listening to you and not quite sure when or what is going to come next. And so if you can work those transitions, that's going to help you tremendously. That was a beautiful center line. He's a really lovely horse. He got moving better and better in his trot work as you went around there. And that was a great trot down that last center line. The halt was nice. Yes, he was off behind, but for the level, I think it was a nice halt. He stood quietly. I think he has some really good stuff to work with there. And just transitions, um, transitions in walk to trot, trot to canter, walk to halt. Just do them all the time. Work without your stirrups to whatever level you're comfortable working without your stirrups. And I think that's one thing that I try to bring up as much as possible here on the Ask an Expert thing, but also with my students on a regular basis. When I say ride without stirrups, it doesn't have to be a scary thing. Like if you've never done it before, it can just be out on a hack, drop your stirrups and just get comfortable there. If you've done it a little bit, then you can increase what you do and work, with some trot. And actually, to be honest, cantering without stirrups is easier than trotting without stirrups. So you can just drop them for a little bit. They sometimes bang you in the ankle, so you may have to deal with that a little bit and make sure they don't whack your horse in the sides and spook them. So just start slow, short spurts, get comfortable with it. But I think it is so helpful. And honestly, when I'm struggling with a horse that wants to get a little behind the leg, I immediately will drop my stirrups. And it is amazing how much more forward the horses go, because when you have stirrups, you get a little locked in your hip and your low back, and then that discourages the horses from wanting to go forward. So even for myself, I work on it all the time. The only last thing I would say there is I personally, I do not like to do, sorry, the laundry's done. I do not like to do rising trot without stirrups. I don't think it's helpful. I think it makes you tighter in your hips and tighter in your hip flexors and your low back. I actually think it's a negative. Personally, I know a lot of particularly horse show people are really big about rising trot without stirrups. I think it makes you pinch with your knees and ride badly. So I would do it only in sitting trot if you're going to ride without stirrups.
Awesome. And Kelly, just so you know, Jon does have several riding without stirrups lessons within the app. So definitely search those up. Some I think are just at the walk or walk and trot. So might be a great place to start with Topper. But agree that Kelly and Topper look awesome. And I'm excited to see their partnership grow.
Me too. I can't wait for the next video in another month or so.
Yeah, totally. Okay, this next one is Steph. Let me just pull Steph up for you. Apologies. My computer is deciding to be slow. Okay. Can you see Steph, Jon?
She's just coming up. There we go. I got her. She's in an indoor.
She's in an indoor. Okay, so Steph is saying she's working with Gia, an 8-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred who finished racing in 2022 and was a broodmare before being restarted briefly in 2024. Steph has had Gia for 2 months and works with her 5 times a week through riding, lunging, and sometimes just bonding. Gia has been to 3 shows with gradual improvement, though she struggles to focus without something like poles or jumps to keep her attention. She has bucked hard at the canter and rears when asked for flat work, often fixating on exits or other horses. Gia is sound, no issues with the saddle, no issues with her teeth. She is ridden in a D-ring snaffle, and Steph is not using spurs or a whip. Steph is unsure if she should be firmer or if Gia's brain is simply overstimulated. She's looking for advice on finding the right balance, how to work through these issues, and reassurance about her own riding.
All right. So, full disclosure, I know Steph really well. We're very good friends, and she used to come down here in the winters and ride with me. So I will say this: this is a beautiful horse. You said she just had gotten started with it, Kinsey. Is that right?
Yeah, she's been riding her for 2 months.
Okay. So like I actually was watching this. I'm like, well, look at her. She knows how to use all these poles and all these things. Like I love all the pole work and things to keep her mind active and busy. I think you're going to have to be patient with her. You can see that there. Now, when that sort of stuff happens, I think exactly as you did there, Steph, just kind of deal with it. Don't get after her. And then you probably need to send her forward. If she doesn't go forward nicely in the trot there, then you can go ahead and have a little canter on. I would, so a couple things. One, first and most importantly, I would make sure, like ulcer wise, that she's covered. And I know Steph knows all this stuff, so it might be not answering her question, but more of just general answers for people dealing with horses like this. So often they have ulcers, and if you don't scope them, you don't really know. And even if you do scope them, I think sometimes they still have them in their hind gut. So I would seriously look at that and make sure that there's nothing going on that way, and maybe even just experiment with some different feeds. The other thing I would say is Steph said she had her in a D ring. You might play around with some different bits just to see if she's a little happier. Like I've had really good luck in that Springer Duo Nave bit. I've had good luck, and that one I like as a D ring. I think the D ring's a great idea. I've also had really good luck with leather bits over the last couple of years. That they're just a little bit happier to take a feel. I would check her mouth to make sure that her teeth are in good shape. And then I think you actually just have to be as patient as you can be. And Steph is an incredibly patient rider, so I know she is. If the behavior sort of stays the same and you think it's more that she just needs to be sort of gotten through it, I wouldn't be opposed to having a dressage whip on board so that you're not getting her with the spur every step, but you just have that so that when she wants to go up and she wants to get nappy on you, that you have that whip there just to give her a little tap tap behind the leg and get her through that stuff right there. That said, I don't know where this started when Steph got it, if it's improved at all or if it's gotten worse. But 2 months, while it's a fair bit of time, it's really not much time in horse training. And I think you're doing the right thing, sort of keeping it active, adding things in, keeping the poles in there, keeping the jumps in there, and keeping her mind sort of at work all the time. And I know up where Steph is, she also has the ability to get out and, like, I don't know what this would be like hunting, but to go out and get out with some other horses and ride and just kind of make work happy and fun for her. Because, I don't know how much of the history we know on this horse, but a lot of times they don't usually start this behavior just because. It's usually because they've been mismanaged and or abused. And I'm not saying this horse was abused, but a lot of times it comes from unintentional situations that they've gotten into with nervous, scared riders, or just bad management and bad riders, or people getting rough and tough on them. And it's so hard to know. So with a horse like this, I would give it realistically like 6 to 12 months to see if this behavior really changes. And if it doesn't, then at that point, I think you say, all right, this might just be who this horse is and how do we cope and deal with it. But I think it does take that much time to sort of get through it. And so I would be constantly changing it up and just keeping it fun, play games, as much sort of low pressure, fun stuff as you can do. But I think the big thing is I would check with the vet, and not like, does this horse have a sore hock or stifle or sacrum or whatever, but more like, could it have hind gut ulcers? Could she just be uncomfortable because of X, Y, or Z? Sort of put your horseman hat on, which Steph has a great one. And then I would also look at the teeth. I would look at changing the bit and sort of seeing, like, with that, I love those leather bits. They're pretty magical, and sometimes they work. Sometimes they're just sort of a good little tool to have. Or, like I said, that rubber Springer D-ring bit is a really good one. Just something sort of mullen mouth. If you have, and I know up where Steph is, she probably doesn't, but if you have somebody who's like an expert on bits, a good bit person can really help a lot with those horses. One thing you can do, which I learned from a bit person this year, is if you put your fingers in their mouth, which everybody's like, oh my God, I'm not putting my fingers in my horse's mouth, they'll bite me. But they have the front teeth, and then they have where the bit goes. There's no teeth in there. And if you feel that bottom bone behind their front teeth on the bottom jaw, you can feel the ridge of their jawbone. And some horses, that is really round, and some horses, it's really pointy and sharp. And if it's pointy and sharp, those horses really dislike any pressure down on it. So that's where a mullen mouth bit or like a soft rubber bit is going to help a lot with those sorts of horses with bit comfort. I have my horse Irving, I was really struggling with, and then I discovered that. And so we put sort of an oval shaped bit in his mouth. It's like a French link Springer bit, KK bit, sorry, but it's got an oval shape to it. So that piece of metal that lays on that soft part of their mouth lays flatter, and he's much more comfortable in that. So I would play with bits, and I would think of like stuff like that's going to treat the hind gut. So there's so many products out there. And then also, I think you're just going to have to be patient, which I know 2 months is being patient already, and Steph is super patient. But I think you're just going to have to kind of deal with the fact that she's got some issues, and it's just going to take a little time. But it's a beautiful horse, and I would just keep it fun and playful as best you can.
Absolutely. Yeah, she is beautiful. And Steph, you are an awesome rider. So it makes me feel bad that Steph is questioning herself. But I can understand that could be an easy reaction to those kind of scenarios.
We all do it.
Yeah, it's human. Well, Steph, definitely give us an update on how that's going, because hopefully it's going well. Keegan is up next. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Keegan is preparing Governor, a 60-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred who last raced in October 2024 for the RRP, the Retired Racehorse Project, the makeover. They have been
Yep.
working toward this since December and recently rode training level test 2 at a show, scoring 78.3%. Keegan felt the test rode closer to a 68 to 70% and is seeking general feedback as they finalize preparations for RRP next week.
Yeah, so I will say this. When I heard the percentage and then saw the first halt, I thought they were probably really generous because that first halt wasn't square, right? He's a beautiful horse, but a 78% is going to come down there, and that's going to be like almost eights throughout the test. So work on squaring up those halts. That's just that one, it takes time, and two, you have to look down at their legs if you don't have somebody there to watch that. So work on the halts, make those square. This first circle was nice and accurate. Be careful, Keegan, as you're trotting around there and working on getting him round, that your hands don't get too low and start sort of pulling that bit down again, like we were just talking about on the soft part of the jaw of the bottom jaw behind his front teeth. That would just be when he gets a little bit braced, you actually want to kind of lift the hand, push him into the leg, and ride a little bit of flexion and bend. It's a really nice trot tempo, though. You're not rushing him around, which is super. Got a little braced there in the trot work right before the canter. So use the end of the ring to create a little more bend in the trot before you ride that canter transition, and that's going to help you a lot. The canter is quite good. Actually looks a little softer and easier in the canter than he did in the trot, which is not abnormal for especially a thoroughbred horse because they spend a lot of time galloping. So the canter is usually the stronger pace than the trot. But he's a really nice type and he's quite a workman about it, right? So I think then the trot is getting better and better as you go. So I think you're going to need to be really accurate with all of your movements, which you're being accurate. But as I say that, be careful that then you don't overuse your corners and make sure that, yeah, like there, that's a pretty deep corner before the walk. And then you just worry, do they fall into the rail a little bit? Now that looked like a decent corner, but if you were going to go up that long side, I worry maybe he would just kind of lose his balance against the rail a little bit there. And then the walk, I'm assuming that was supposed to be, or maybe it wasn't, maybe that was a working walk. Yeah, okay. So that was, I think you get a working walk in this test and then the free walk. So actually that was well done. Sorry, Keegan, I didn't mean to jump the gun on you there. And obviously in this walk, in time, you'd like more stretch. You can see where a judge would fall in love with this, right? Like he's beautiful and a really nice type. He just, to me, looks slightly braced through his top line, as a lot of greener thoroughbred horses, well, greener any horses, but especially thoroughbred horses can be. And so I think in general, just I would work on quality of paces. So like we were talking earlier in this, shocker, lots of transitions are going to help that. Working on the bend on these circles so that you imagine if as you're looking down from the skyline view over top of you guys, that you'd have nice even bend all the way through his whole body. I would be doing lots of leg yields with this horse, even if they're not perfect leg yields, to help him with that lateral bend, spiraling in, spiraling out stuff to help him as well. And you can see as you get going here, he actually gets better and better and rounder and softer as you go. So the other thing I would wonder is how clever, especially when you go to the next competition, you can practice it. How clever can you be in your warm up to go straight from warm up to the test without walking, without taking a break? Because a horse like this, the more you work him, the better he's getting. And that was a better transition there. It looked like he had a little more bend in the trot before the canter work, so that was well done. But so often we go to these horse shows, right? And you get them all warmed up, and then they're like, oh, you're next in, and then you go hang out by the gate, or you have to walk around a little bit, and you kind of lose your mojo. So you want to make sure you keep your mojo, like Austin Powers would say, and you have to have, I think with a horse like this, I'd want to have it timed out really well that I could go right from the warm up into the test and not let him get too long of a break. So usually with a horse like that, like I'll give them a break. And that was a much better halt. Look at that. Boom. Good boy. That was nice. It was a nice test. I would, I agree with Keegan. It probably isn't a 78. It probably is closer to a 70. That's still a pretty good mark. So I'd be happy with that. I think I would time out that warm up as perfect as I could. That might mean you need somebody standing at the gate, because you get a volunteer at the gate at these horse shows and they start panicking and getting irate that you need to be in the ring. You need to get over here. And if you have somebody helping you, a friend, you can just say, yeah, Keegan is aware. She will not keep you waiting. She'll be here, and just calm that situation down. Then you can just go right in. And the other thing is, getting to the horse show ahead of time when it's a big horse show and not just a day event, and taking full advantage of any arena familiarization that you can do, any hacking around in the ring you can do, so that when he gets into that new arena, that competition arena, it's as commonplace to him as the warm up is, that you can really try to get in there and take advantage of that when you get to the horse shows. But all in all, it's a beautiful horse, and I think you did a great job, Keegan. Well done.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear how the makeover goes.
Yeah, me too. Keep us posted.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have Taryn. And let's see here now. Sorry, this video is a little smaller, so we're going to have to do our best. Are you able to see it, John?
I need my glasses. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Taryn is a 12-year-old rider competing at the USEA Area 2 Championships on October 3rd at Lochmoy. She will ride Augie, a quarter horse in his early 20s that the family has owned for 5 years. Taryn's biggest challenges are getting Augie on the bit and achieving bend. This video is from her starter test at a qualifying show in June. She will not be allowed to use her dressage whip at champs, though she has started riding with spurs. Questions include advice for improving bend, how to encourage roundness and connection, and insider tips for making up points in the test if contact and bend can't be consistently maintained.
Okay, so I think she's got all very good questions that are the right questions to be asking. So I like that you're able to use a spur. Honestly, I just can't quite see the ears. So my question would be, when you use the spurs, how does he react to the spurs? Does he go forward from them, or does he kind of push back on them a little bit? I'm a big advocate of a nice, smooth rowel spur, and that can help when you need a little bit more bend through your horse's side. Thinking a lot about lateral bend. So you might play around with the type of spur that you use and see if one works better than the other. Oh, that's so much better. Whatever you just did, well done. So as far as insider tips to help you get as many points out of the horse as you can, or out of your test as you can, when you're dealing with stuff like this, because let's be honest, we're going to make some improvements, but probably by the time the championships come, we are not going to completely transform where we're at, and that's okay, right? We have to make small improvements and be better in 6 months than we are today, which is totally understandable. So one thing you want to do is you need to really know your test, know where you need to be. And in your transitions, you want to be on time. But if you're going to make a mistake in the upward transitions, well, in all the transitions, be a step early, not a step late. So you can be super accurate with those transitions, know the pattern inside out. And I will say this, I used to believe that if you wrote a test too many times, the horses would memorize it and then they made it more difficult. I don't think that's true. I actually think that what that is that we as riders start to anticipate the test a little bit. And I haven't had a horse memorize a test ever. Well, no, probably ever, now that I realize what's going on underneath me. So I think don't be timid about riding the test. Now, if you get in there and they start anticipating some things, then you probably need, and honestly, you probably need to write it more so that they start understanding to listen to you. Like we were saying earlier, lots of transitions are going to help you. I think the more you can get down your leg and let your leg stretch out and make sure you keep weight in those stirrups, that's going to be super helpful. And know the rules for your dressage whip. So at that championship, you should be allowed to use that whip in your warm-up and you can carry it all the way over to the main arena. I don't know at national championships if you're allowed to take it around the arena. I have a feeling you're not, but you can ask the TD at the event, so that you can carry it right up to the last possible moment. Now, look, the nice thing here is, yes, we love the horse rounder, but you have a really good tempo. You have a nice, consistent rhythm the whole way around. And as I can see this a little bit better now, which is awesome. Thank you again, Kinsey. He looks pleasant. He looks happy. He looks like he's happy to do his job. And that goes a long way with these judges. They see all these horses come in all day. And if they see a test like this, where they might say, all right, this needs to be rounder. But if they see that you're happy, your horse is happy, you can take your hand off the rein and scratch your face and he doesn't lose his mind and fall apart, I think they're going to be okay with this. So that said, things you can do to make it rounder, right? So one thing is, as you post, your hands do just move a little bit up and down with your post. So try to imagine that you're going to have your pinky finger and your knuckles just down into your horse's neck and wither. Okay, that is going to help keep those hands a little quieter. And then when you're schooling and warming up, occasionally take a peek down at your hands and see, what are my hands doing? Are they staying still or are they moving with me? Right? I do think right up to the last possible moment when you're doing your warm up, you need to be doing a lot of trot to canter transitions, because we talk about anticipation, right? And that can be a bad thing because we sometimes think they memorize tests and they memorize the movements and then they anticipate what's coming. Well, we can use that to our advantage as well. If we can get your horse thinking that at any moment you might ask him to canter, then that trot to canter transition is going to be better. So, like I was saying several times already today, I would do so many trot canter transitions on this horse in the warm up. Just trot to canter, trot to canter, trot to canter, trot to canter, so that you got to a point where your horse is expecting to canter and is expecting to trot. Okay. And sometimes that makes us nervous because we're in the ring and we're in the warm-up ring and we're thinking, oh my gosh, well, I have to know what the circle feels like, and I have to know what the diagonal feels like, and I have to know this pattern, and I need to ride through this, that, and the other. In that final warm-up, that's where I probably wouldn't worry about the test and the movements, right? There's nothing in this test that you don't do on a regular basis. You're just walk trotting and cantering on circles in a particular pattern. If you've ridden that pattern enough on a daily basis at home, then when you're in that final warm-up, you don't have to worry about it. You own that. Just own it. And then you can worry about quality of paces. And that is going to be achieved by creating a horse who is listening to its rider. So a lot of, that was a much better transition, by the way. Well done. So a lot of transitions in that warm-up, a lot of trot, a lot of canter, and really probably not staying in trot forever or staying in canter forever, because then they get kind of bored. Like we were talking about Steph's horse earlier. Keep this interesting for your horse. Don't go out there and just trot for 6 laps and then canter for 3 laps and go in the ring. Keep it interesting. Keep your horse looking to you to wonder, what am I going to be asked to do next? So lots of transitions. Check your hands. I would say work at home without stirrups to whatever your comfort level is, which we were talking about earlier, so I won't recite all of that again, but work without stirrups. And that's a lovely final halt. Really nice. Stood quietly. I like it a lot. So you can do some small circles. That's the other thing I would add in there, is when you're working a horse like this who maybe gets a little bit stiff, rather than with a horse like that worrying about, well, I've got to get its head round. If you go into your ring at home and you do like a long side and do 3 10-meter circles up that long side and go around the short end and then do 3 10-meter circles up the next long side, you're going to find very quickly that your horse starts to become more elastic. So a really good exercise that I actually was doing with one of my students today who was dealing with similar things was, we just went down center line, tracked left, and then at each letter in the dressage ring, we did a 10-meter circle. And we did that on one rein until he got comfortable with it. And then we changed directions and we did it on the other rein until the horse got comfortable with it. And in the beginning, it was a struggle. It was hard to do. And the rider was struggling to get it. And the horse was struggling to understand. And by the end, that horse was looking to the rider like, well, we're going to circle here, right? And started turning and staying soft and elastic. And then we were able to link a half 10-meter circle left to a half 10-meter circle right. And the horse started listening to the rider because they weren't just plowing around the outside of the ring and putting a track on the rail, but they were riding some figures and movements, and it was planned, but to the horse it was interesting. It was different stuff to do. So I would keep it interesting, lots of transitions. Don't be afraid to look at your hands. You can look down and look at them. You just can't get stuck looking at them. Work without your stirrups, and I think you can make some significant improvements by your championship test. But long term, 6, 12 months from now, I think you're going to have a very different horse.
Awesome. Well, good luck at championships, Taryn. That is going to go great. Okay, this next one is another thing for Taryn. If she hasn't already, I highly recommend she check out Peter's playbook for whatever test she has to do at championships. Just search the name of that test in the app, and Peter's playbook will walk her through all of the best ways to get to ace every movement from a judge's perspective. So definitely worth checking that out.
He is magical. I have listened to a couple of those, and he's really good at it. And he's the guy that I call into my own home farm when I need help, making sure that I can produce the best horse that I can. So definitely check out Peter.
Absolutely. Yeah, Peter is the best. Okay, next up is Krista. And Krista was recently on a trip to Alaska to look at new horses, and she is wanting your advice on which horse you prefer.
Okay. Oh, I like this one. It's very uphill. Very elastic mover. He's a little bit out behind, a bit long in the hind leg, but he moves great, super elastic. So that is one that you're going to have to spend a lot of time walking up hills, getting him stronger in his stifle and his hind end. Probably doing a lot of halt and eventually rein back transitions, but I'd be careful with those because a lot of times when they're built like that and they're a little out behind themselves, you go to do the rein back and they struggle and they will freeze and lock up on you. So be careful you don't create a horse that would rear. But you're just gonna have to decide really what that feel is, and I would trust your gut on it. But I know there was 2 of them there, very similar build, and that would, I think you're gonna have to trust your gut on which one. But I bet they do great on the flat. That hind leg, you would think they're really good jumpers as well. So they move well, they jump well, they probably gallop great. I would think the collection work could be a problem though.
I have heard they also have a bit of an attitude problem.
Yeah, I've heard they can be pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, you can't even ride a mule in eventing competition, so I'm not sure if you could get it permission to have a moose. We'll have to look into that before you purchase. You might want to make sure you know where you're allowed to show them.
Yeah, report back, Krista. We want an
Maybe
update.
like the United States Moose Horse Association or something. I'm not sure.
If it's not been started yet, this could be the time.
You could start the United States Moose Association.
Absolutely. Okay. Krista also submitted another video. So
okay.
Thank you for that one. And then this next one is
this is more up my alley.
Krista doing a stadium round from September schooling jumper show. She is working on riding forward, using her leg to support at the jumps, and avoiding picking at her horse's face, which her horse strongly dislikes. While she has been getting lead changes at home, they often disappear at shows. She's looking for feedback on continuing to improve her forward riding and consistency in the show environment.
So I actually was just thinking how great this was, how forward she was riding. I love that. So well done and good job. It does, I think the thing is when you're riding around at a horse show, for sure, the quality of what you're able to get at home goes away a little bit. I always figure if I can just lose 10%, I'm probably in good shape. So I'm not surprised that you would lose a little bit as far as the lead changes go. You can see a little bit from time to time, he didn't like the one fence you were coming to off the left turn. Where he was a little, I'm pointing at it like you guys can see. I love it. The one fence that he chipped a little bit, he just looked like he didn't pick it up, and maybe you lost a little bit of straightness. In general, I think you're definitely on the right track. I bet as you get confident and comfortable, you're going to find this gets a little bit easier as the fences go up. I would add, so this is the one here, I think, where we just coming up here. This is it right here. He just shifted a little bit right on you at the last moment there to give himself some room. So make sure you're really working on absolute straightness the whole way. That said, that was the only jump that happened. The rest of it really looked quite good, and he's looking to his jumps really nicely. So again, I think as the fences get a little bit bigger, that's actually going to make your life easier because he's going to focus on these jumps even more. Lead changes look pretty good. Just make sure you're thinking about your new inside leg coming on, but also that you support it with the outside rein so that it doesn't just sort of squeeze out the outside. I like your use of your seat. You're not driving with the seat. You're able to squat down into the saddle and you're light where you need to be. I think, honestly, it's really coming along nicely. You don't over soften your hand and reach up the neck at all. I'm pretty impressed, and I'll be honest, I'm struggling to tell you that you need to make some major changes here. I think you're on the right track and really doing a very good job with all of this stuff. So I would say just keep it up. If at home, you want to keep working on those changes, I think for schooling purposes, when you're doing a course like this, you could just add in a circle here or there to make sure that he's really truly pushing his rib cage away from your inside leg and yielding to that pressure. You could play around a little bit, maybe like with a full cheek or a D-ring bit if you feel like you need some help getting him into the outside rein, but I would struggle to tell you that you should be changing tack because it looks like he's a pretty happy guy and kind of wants to just go do his job. So I think at this point, it's really, and this is something to think about with young horses in general, it's so tempting to like make changes to our ride or to our equipment to be like, oh, could I make it better faster? And I think sometimes it's actually just about the time and giving him time and giving yourself some time to just get confident and stronger. I think that was a nice round. Really, I thought it was very good.
Totally. Krista, you looked awesome. Okay, this next one is Lee.
I kind of want another moose video.
Krista, I'm sure Krista has more she can send.
Perfect.
Sorry to disappoint. This is another horse.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay. This is Lee, and she submitted a video of Sven, her 8-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred, whom she has owned for a year and had under saddle for about 6 months. They've been working through anxiety, which is improving. The video shows both flat work and gymnastics, including Sven's tendency to add some after-jump fun, which can be unnerving. Lee's main question is what she should do to address this behavior, whether to go forward, halt in a straight line, turn to another jump, or something else. She also notes she likely rides cautiously because of this, which affects her confidence and decisions in the ride. General feedback on the flat work is also welcome.
All right. So first thing I would say is I love the neck strap and I love the no noseband. So we're not sort of shutting his mouth hard against that bit. He just looks very relaxed through his jaw, which is nice. We'll see what happens here as we get into the jumping as far as the behavior goes. You can see a little bit of tail swish here. So right here, I would say the canter, I would want to send a little bit more forward for my warm-up work and send him on. And if you're comfortable that he's not going to try to buck you off, then I would get up in 2-point and sort of gallop around a little bit. That's super easy to say when I'm not sitting on him, so you have to kind of feel that out. He looks like he just needs to be sent a little bit more forward in general. But again, that has to come with feeling like you're safe and you're not going to get catapulted. So I love all this little footwork stuff. And there you can see he got a little squirty, right? On the backside of the fence and lands going with you. So what I would do there would be land and circle. And not a small circle, not a punishing circle, but I would land here and I would just go big left circle around those blue barrels and work that canter. I would not land and halt on a horse like this. I would land and work the canter so that he understood that when he lands, he is not done. He has more to do. And again, not in a punishing way, but in a, hey, we're going to go now. We're going to go forward. We're going to canter here. And I would turn right there on the right lead and I would make him keep cantering. because a little bit sometimes with these horses, what happens is they get that little behavior there, they get a little nervous, they go squirting away on you, and then you bring them back to trot. And whether intentional or unintentional, they start to learn that if I scoot and I get naughty, then I'm going to be allowed to trot and I'm going to be done, right? Whether that means I'm done for the day or I'm done just for this canter, I don't know that it really matters because they start to figure out how they're going to get, how that jumping is going to finish. They're going to land, they're going to squirt, they're going to be a bit of an idiot, and then nice ride IQ saddle pad, by the way, and then they're going to be done, back to trot, and we go do it again. So I think if you land off those jumps and you work that canter and you make him canter, and then you bring him right back to trot and you go back again and you land and you work that canter, and you just keep repeating that, I think a lot of that behavior would go away. And then you're going to feel more comfortable riding more forward to the jumps. Another great one is sort of on that same vein is set up just one single jump, trot into it, canter away, work the canter till you're comfortable, trot into it, canter away, work the canter until you're comfortable. And once he gets good at it, then just canter that single jump on a circle, right? And that's something I did with Zelda. My mare, who's going advanced now, was actually like this. She was really difficult. She did it more in front of the jumps. She still does. But she did it more in front of the jumps when she was young. And we would just put a single jump in the middle of the ring, and we just cantered it on a big, like 30-meter circle until she was able to just go down there and not make such a big deal of it. So I think you have the right idea with what you're doing. You have the right idea that you need some more control when you land. But I think what you need is more control in canter when you land, because when he lands and he is trotting, right, he's pretty good. When he has to canter right there, he gets upset, he gets stressed out about it. So I think the answer is, let's deal with the canter right here, put the leg on, wrap him around your right leg and canter a circle. That's how I would deal with that until he lands and he just expects, like, oh, well, I'm going to have to canter and it's hard work if I'm upset. So let's just have a nice canter. And I would just work that canter, work that canter, work that canter, just on a 20-meter circle. And once you got him, back to trot, come around, do it again. That's how I would deal with it. I think this is quite a nice horse. You do a good job. You do occasionally want to get just a little bit there, kind of snap back in the back seat. And with that behavior on landing, when he's bucking, who could fault you, right? You don't want to be forward. And you were forward at the fence, actually. But then as soon as he's in the air, you pop back and you pop him in the back of the saddle again because you're worried he's going to buck you off, and he is trying. But I don't think it's something that's going to get better by bringing him back to trot. I think it's going to be something that's going to get better by sending him forward in the canter in a safe way. It doesn't have to be like you're off at the Kentucky Derby, but in a safe way so that he understands he's going to have to keep working.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, Lee was our last submission for today, but I think that was awesome. I know I learned a ton. We're getting comments in the chat from people. They learned a lot. Jon, thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys having me. I always love doing it, and it is fun to get Olaf and a moose today.
Honestly, wouldn't have expected it, but it was really wonderful to see the variety of submissions that we received this evening.
Absolutely. It was really fun. I appreciate everybody putting themselves out there and sending the videos in. I know it can be a little unnerving to put videos out for people to see, but it's so helpful for everybody to get it and to kind of understand, like, and I think this when I watch these videos too, like you guys are asking me these questions, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, I was asking myself this question today when I was riding this horse or that horse. It's the same stuff for all of us. So thank you guys for sending them in.
Yeah, that is so true. And I know we have Taryn, who's going to championships coming up here, and Keegan, who's going to the makeover, and Jon, you've got your big competition this weekend. So all of you guys, we're rooting for you. We're all wishing you good luck, and I know it's going to go great for everyone. So excited to hear how it goes.
Me too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for submitting your videos and your questions. And as always, Jon, we really appreciate you. And we'll see you next week.
All right.